Clemson projected to be a national seed with college baseball, something that we really didn't expect because the Tigers were basically picked to be fifth in the division, and now are we seriously talking about they're one of the best 8 teams in the country?
Oh, 100%, yeah. This has been one of the best turnarounds. This is almost a Auburn 2013 kind of turnaround if we're trying to equate things back to college football. This season has been unreal as far as what has happened and what Clemson's been able to accomplish in just such a short time. They're absolutely one of the best 8 teams in the nation, and I think you're going to see that coming up over the next few days. If they're able to win tomorrow against Boston College, we know now they're going to probably play North Carolina in the semifinals, a team that they swept already. Now that's going to be a tough game, but if you're able to beat North Carolina, you're going to probably play Wake Forest, a team that, even though they were swept by Wake Forest at the beginning of the year, that kind of started this whole trend upward. They gave Wake Forest 2 games that were fits. Wake Forest really struggled with Clemson in those final 2 games, game 2 and game 3. So it's going to be interesting to see. I think that Clemson is red hot right now, but there's still room to grow, crazily enough.
I'm looking at the article recently that came out about Clemson. They came off of a win was it last night? Caden Grice had a great game where he hit a grand slam against Virginia Tech to defeat them in the ACC tournament. Now, I know it was relatively not a game for Virginia Tech to win, but I discussed this morning about how baseball players are ultra competitive. You and I talked about this in a chat a couple of weeks ago. When I watch these college baseball games, every single team and player wants to destroy that team that they're playing against, whether they have a chance or not, or whether it matters or not in the scorebook or in the league or whatever. And you could see that with Virginia Tech, and everybody says, well, the game didn't matter. It was meaningless. Virginia Tech wasn't going to be able to go on anyways. Well, when they were up 5-3 at one time, it didn't seem that way. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like Clemson was going to be in a dogfight. And once the ship got rolling, I believe in the 5th inning or 6th inning last night, it was game over. I think it was partly because they were looking for momentum, and they got it. They wanted to keep this truck rolling, and they were able to do that and then some last night.
Now, you're a baseball guy a lot more than me, but what does it mean for this team to win their 40th game of the season? I know it is in the postseason, but I was looking at the teams that are out there. There's not but about 2 handful of teams, maybe 15 or less, that even won 40 games. So how big is it for the Clemson Tiger team to win 40 games and for it to be back its first season doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a key that is really underscored as far as just kind of the unwritten rules of like Power 5 successful seasons. You win 40 games and you're in the ACC or SEC or Big 12 or Pac-12, you've had a good year. You've probably played some tough teams in the non-con. You've had a tough schedule to play in one of those conferences. So to win 40 games, no matter how many ways that you've done it, and in Clemson's way, they're highly ranked in the RPI, which means they've played very tough competition. Yeah, it's a great year. It's a fantastic year. If I recall correctly, I don't believe Monty won 40 in his first game in the regular season. They ended up winning the ACC title and then went on a run through the regional and ended up winning 40 games. But winning in the regular season 39 and really having a chance to win that 40th and a couple other times before the run happened, getting that 40th win last night really shows they're a good team. They deserve to be where they're at. They deserve to be a host at bare minimum, and that they're not a pushover. You're going to have to pack your lunch when you come in and play Clemson.
Yeah, I'm thinking, it'll be an exciting ACC tournament. Now Clemson is in a game where if they lose, they're out, which Faxton and I were talking about this morning about how it kind of stinks to think that they just come off a game that didn't matter. And really, I mean, as far as like winning or losing, and now they come into a game that they really have to win, along with the teams like Wake Forest who have to play Pitt. And I mean, Pitt could beat them. I mean, I will say this: I'm not a biggest fan of a one win and moving on situation in baseball or softball. They go all year playing 3-game series over the weekend, and then when it comes to the playoffs, it's like, okay, one game and done. I mean, as you know, any team can win any game, especially depending on how that ball and those laces go, right? So, do you like that it's kind of a single elimination in this case?
Well, I don't like the format that they have. I think anybody that is a baseball fan, and especially an ACC baseball fan, is going to tell you the same thing, that the format's so junky. It's so convoluted to have 12 teams and brackets of 3, and if everybody finishes 1-1, then the highest team is going to go. That it's not. You can just look at the conference that's closest to you in location in the SEC, and I kind of like their format better. You have a one-game winner take all. Winner moves on into the double elimination round on Tuesday. So your top 4 teams, they get a bye, kind of like a basketball tournament. However they do that, and then the others have one game that they get into the double elimination, and then from there it's double elimination. I think that's fine. You have an element that's something different, something that you have to base your, you have to get there. Like if South Carolina had lost to Georgia, there would have been implications. There's always implications with a team that's a fringe team like that on that first day. Then getting into that double elimination format that everybody's used to. I think that's the best of all worlds when it comes to these larger conferences.
Now, most of the baseball outlets out there are starting to agree that Clemson is a national seed and starting to predict Clemson will be there. Top 10 in the RPI, top 5, really, a top 10 in the strength of schedule, with a possibility of going deep into the ACC tournament. I think D1 Baseball recent projection has them as a number 6 national seed hosting Campbell, Oregon, and Army, and has them up there as one of the best teams in the country. Is there any doubt that that's where they're at in your mind?
Oh yeah, I think at bare minimum they're hosting, but I think it would shock me if they're not in the top 8. I think that they've been so hot against good teams, mind you. This isn't like some other teams that make their hay beating bad teams and occasionally one good team. Clemson had to beat some good teams to get where they're at. I definitely think that they're worthy of a national seed. I definitely think that if something like that happens where it's a Campbell or an Oregon, yeah, you're going to have to lace them up against somebody like Campbell. But at the same time, I think it's their best shot to make it to a super regional in over a decade. You want to see something like that. And I can tell you, if you get into that situation where you're playing in a winner's bracket game on Saturday night, Doug Kingsmore is going to be it's going to be a very fervent environment.
Now, when I'm looking at the top 10 of the RPI right now, you got Wake Forest, Kentucky, Arkansas, LSU, Florida, South Carolina. So ACC 1, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 SEC teams. And then Clemson is the 7th team as an ACC team. And then you get Vanderbilt, SEC, Virginia, ACC. And then at the very end in the 10 is Indiana State, which is I believe the Missouri Valley. So then you have below that Alabama. So, Alabama's right up there. It's basically without Indiana State, I mean, an all ACC, SEC, but heavy SEC top 10, top 11 RPI there. Is that shocking to you? Is that kind of how it normally goes? And does that show you that maybe Clemson can hang with those top teams? They may have to face Wake Forest in the ACC tournament. They may have to face Virginia in the ACC tournament. So are those teams that Clemson can hang with?
Well, one, we're not going to face Virginia. They got dominated today by North Carolina. So it'll be North Carolina taking that spot. Wake Forest is probably the most complete team right now in college baseball. That's not to say they're unbeatable, but from top to bottom, they've got the best hitting lineup, best pitchers. They are full of talent. So we'll see. Like I said, when Clemson was at their lowest point, they were able to hang with Wake Forest. Outside of the Friday night game, Wake Forest dominated that Friday night game, but Saturday and Sunday, Clemson really put up a fight. But with the SEC schools, it's kind of funny to think about that. They absolutely got the talent to beat anybody any day. Florida, LSU, Arkansas, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, they got talent for days. But they also have flaws, and if you catch them on the wrong day, you can beat them. Florida, LSU, and Arkansas especially have issues in their bullpen. They've got a bunch of talent on the front end with their starters. You think about the pitcher for LSU. I think his last name is Skeens or Skynes or whatever. Florida's got the same thing. Arkansas's got a great pitcher. But you start to look at that bullpen ERA, it's not too dissimilar to Clemson, and Clemson's struggle at the beginning of the year especially. Vanderbilt's a different animal. They can hit well. They're a little bit down as far as pitching this year too as a whole, but they're still very good. I think Clemson, this is a good shot for Clemson to make a deep run this year. I'm not gonna put an end point yet, because college baseball, it's a lot different than football or basketball or whatever. You can see a Coastal Carolina or somebody, if they get hot at the end of the year, they can win it all. Clemson's got the talent to be there. They want to keep that momentum going. And so if they can, win tomorrow and Saturday and give Wake a fight on Sunday, potentially Wake, then you can see a Clemson team that makes a real splash in the postseason.
I mean, you're looking at what you just said. Virginia loses today 10-2 in the ACC baseball championship tournament there. North Carolina was the 7th seed, and they took down the Virginia Cavaliers in a team that went 45-12 overall. And was one of the best teams in the country, or is one of the best teams in the country. So again, it kind of goes back to anything can happen especially when you have that win or go home kind of games, especially in baseball. So we will see how it goes. Now it looks like more comments from around the league. Wake Forest just absolutely thumps Pittsburgh. Looks like what was the score there? 10-2 as well. So. Another big time win. Both North Carolina teams beat their opponents 10-2 heading into the next round of ACC tournament. Now Clemson will play Boston College early morning, actually, Houston, 11 a.m. Friday. So it'll be something I'll get to see. I have tomorrow off, so it'll be something I'll get to look forward to. Hopefully wake up a little late, get some rest, and then get to watch Boston College. Now Clemson, I believe, has not swept Boston College, but won the series. So what's the challenge for Clemson baseball to get over the hump and get past this team?
Well, it's the same thing that you saw with Virginia Tech. It's just bringing what you've had. Virginia Tech, you won the series, you swept them. It's hard to beat a team 4 times in a year. It's hard to beat a team 3 times in a year. Boston College is a talented team. So I think part of the good strategy that they were able to implement on Tuesday or Wednesday, was they did a bullpen night. They started Joe Allen. They went with Rocco Reed, B.J. Bailey, Jackson Lindley got some pitches in there. You had several guys get in there that weren't your normal starters, so it saved Darden, Gordon, and Grice for the weekend. And in the way that it's structured, Gordon's going to pitch tomorrow. So the challenge is Gordon is one of the guys that Boston College has already faced. I can't recall if he won or lost his start. He might have lost. So, there's a challenge right there. Can you have a better outing than you had last time and figure out a way to get into the semifinals? So it's just bringing what you brought the last 13 some odd games and see what you can do.
Clemson Carson gets in on the chat, says, I was there for the whole weekend against UNC last week, and it was electric, especially on Friday night with Blake Wright's walk-off. Go Tigers gets in and says, Clemson beats Boston College tomorrow, they will play the Tar Heels again.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on a chance of, is it going to be difficult for Clemson to beat North Carolina if they have to face them again?
Once again, same thing. hard to beat a team 4 times. North Carolina is not a slouch team. They're probably looking at being a 2 seed in a regional. Could really make some noise. North Carolina is always a problem, and you're playing up in Durham, so it's going to be probably a heavier UNC crowd. So we'll see what happens. I would think that either Darden or Grice is going to pitch that night, and those two have been absolute studs to start out with. So you hope that they bring that, but you're going to have to be locked in when you play UNC if you make it there.